Isn't it incredible there, when a great actor reads your lines, you go, I'm a good writer.
Yeah.
No, you're not a good writer.
Yeah, but
You have
that's
good
a great
actor.
actor.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
they
a
can do
great
that with
actor.
anything.
Yes. Hi, I'm Guillermo del Toro.
I'm Mike Flanagan.
We both have series coming out
Yes.
in Halloween, Cabinet of Curiosities and Midnight Club. So let's start with you. Are you basing the stories on things you read, or are they all original?
It's all based on the writings of Christopher Pike. And these are books I'm reading in 5th or 6th grade.
Oh, that's the one, yes.
Yeah, and so he had written this book called The Midnight Club, which was about a bunch of terminally ill teenagers in a hospice.
Yes.
They meet every night at midnight to tell each other stories.
Yes.
And so I thought there was a great chance to do a format that was both an anthology series, but also had this kind of strong A story to it, that's this through line.
Which is beautiful, the thread.
It's fun. And then I thought, well, for all of the stories that they tell each other, how about we use other Christopher Pike books, because he wrote like 80 books.
Dying to hear the next chapter.
Raising.
Where did I leave off?
So did you direct the episodes?
I directed 2 of the episodes, the first 2. And then I got the joy, and you're very familiar with this joy, of being able to support incredible storytellers and watch what they do. It's awesome. And I imagine something for your series where I felt like these were filmmakers that were swinging for the fences.
That was the thing I said is, I'm far more comfortable protecting others than even protecting myself.
You have 8 episodes for Cabinet, and you have, is it 8 different filmmakers?
Yeah, 8 different filmmakers. 2 of the stories I wrote, I wrote the
Murmuring,
story.
I know, is based on yours.
Which was an idea I had when I was traveling through Europe, and I thought, what if I heard the birds, and I remember the birds murmuring in the sky when I was a kid, because normally the myth is birds carry the souls of the dead to heaven. I thought, what if there was a meaning to that, and there was a cacophony coming out of recording the birds? You heard a ghost. And the other one was Lot 36, which occurred to me when I lost a storage. They sent the bill to the wrong address, and they sold all my storage to somebody. And it had all my storyboards and this and that.
Oh,
and
man.
It took a while to recuperate. So I thought, what if somebody buys a storage and there's something in there that shouldn't be seen?
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You call the show the Cabinet of Curiosities.
Yes.
Which goes back and has a wonderful meaning, but you don't call it the Cabinet of Horrors or the Cabinet of Terror or anything like that.
I don't believe. The funny thing is, I have done very few horror movies.
Yeah.
Because I'm interested in the aesthetics, but not in the mechanics.
Right.
That's something that I have a hard time explaining. Curiosity is the most beautiful thing in fantasy. If you can acquire the state of a child with wide eyes, then you're being healed.
We were both scared children.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I peed often in my crib.
Yeah.
That's how scared I was. Yeah.
I remember being terrified of getting up to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
What was your biggest fear as a child?
My biggest fear as a child was being alone in the dark. My biggest fear as a child was being by myself without any support, where I could not comprehend what was around me.
Yes.
That was a crippling fear.
I understand that.
What was your biggest fear as a child?
I had a recurring dream that it's still my entire filmography, because for me, filmography is biography, right?
Yeah.
Is basically, I dreamt that my father went into a train, and I realized that it was the train of the dead, and that he was going to go to the other world, and I ran into the train, and I said, Dad, don't go. And I said, can I go with you?
Wow.
And I went. In the dream, I went with him. And to this day is a monumental fear I had. Then I realized it was the moment it came when I lost my father. But what I love about horror is it brings the world to you. And horror is a shrine to imperfection and tells you it's okay to be a monster. we are all monsters at the end of the day. Can we live with that?
One of the things that I realized gradually, the more I exposed myself to horror, to horror literature and then to television and movies, was that in the time it took me to get through a scary page or a scary chapter or a scary scene, I was getting a little braver in these small, controllable increments.
Yeah.
And I started to think the reason I love horror is because as a kid who was scared,
You were scared.
yeah, I learned how to be braver. I had these little bursts of exercise in courage. And it started to make me look at the world a little different, because if I could carry myself through whatever courage I had to summon to make it to the end of it, you know, to make it to the end of a particularly scary movie, if I could carry just a fraction of that out into real life, then this genre has actually helped me grow.
Fear's it's like radiation. You spend enough time around enough of it and it changes you genetically.
One of the things that I think is so interesting about horror is that it can be such an effective mirror. It can be something.
It is a mirror.
Yeah, and force us to kind of have that moment, that end of life moment, early and in a controlled, safe space where we can start to really look at uncomfortable truths about who we are, either as a society, you know, as a species. And I'd love to ask you on that note, what of your work is the most frightening to you?
All of them. I mean, I people think I don't mean it, but even something as commercial as Blade 2, the story of Nomak is my story. And I wrote Nomak as the hero of the movie.
Yeah.
And I told that to Wesley. I said, you take care of Blade, I'll take care of Nomak. I believe that there's a simple rule that I found to be truth after 58 years in this world. Hatred and fear are mirrors. Love is windows. Every time you hate somebody, it's a mirror. Every time you fear somebody, it's a mirror. When you love somebody, they're a window to an entire world you don't know. Like you meet somebody, and if you view people as a window, if you can give them that license, you pour yourself into them. And everything is eradicated, the differences, which are all illusions, right? So horror allows you to recognize you. This is you. Horror is very healing in that it tells you there is a whole side they don't tell you about in life, socially. It's not, and it's a side that is real.
What do you say to people who come to you and say, I don't like horror, I don't want to give the genre a chance? How do you approach them and try to kind of lure them in?
You can never make someone jump onto a roller coaster if they don't like roller coasters.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's horror is a roller coaster, and there's certain horror that is a roller coaster. There's other that is a poetic landscape, and it's a painting. There are frescoes of horror. You direct them to that, to things that are not gonna. They're gonna show them the most human, moving side. The best horror for me is the one where you come in feeling you're gonna be afraid, and you end up crying.
Yeah.
And you end up being moving and recognizing yourself in it. Now let me ask you, what monster in any, it can be literature or film, do you identify with the most, and why, if you can?
As a child, would identify very much with the vampire because this was a character that was lonely. This is a character that was alone, and that was what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
This character who, even among people, could look like a person, behave like a person, mimic a person, but not be the same, you know, and have some kind of deep secret, some kind of appetite to them that would very much disturb the people if they found out about it. You know? That was something that spoke to me very much.
So you identify with the romantic vampire?
Yes. That's a very good distinction.
Yeah,
yes.
There's a big distinction there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And every damn time I tell you I haven't seen Interview with the Vampire.
And every time I tell you, you really, really need to see Interview with the Vampire.
You are one of the most famous celebrators of books and literature.
Yeah.
And you have a collection of books that is intimidating, impressive, and beautiful. What is one book that you feel every fan of the genre has to read?
To me, it's Frankenstein. I mean, it is, the beauty of Frankenstein is that it's written by somebody that is in her late teens.
Yeah.
And the questions it asks are relatable in the same way that Milton is relatable to every existential question, but done with a lot more emotion. And if you read it at 15 and then you read it at 40, it's a different book.
Right.
It's one of those books that changes, and it's a miracle. I was once having dinner with Garcia Marquez, and he said to me, there are about 10 or 12 characters in literature that are universal. Even people that haven't read the book know the characters. And one of them, he said, Pinocchio, Dracula, Sherlock Holmes, Tarzan, Frankenstein. And he kept going for a little bit, but he's one of those. And those are the big alphabet of the language of humanity.
Can I ask you, is there a chance that we will see Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein?
I would hope so. I would hope so. I think that in a way, Pinocchio is the same story in certain ways, but it's very different. So hopefully, yeah. Listen, I want to say I love meeting fellow filmmakers. I happen to think that directors should meet directors because you can talk shop at a level that is really rewarding. It's very hard to explain what a director does, except to another director. So I really want to thank you for making the time, and let's meet on Bleak House, and I have 2 books I want to give you.
I'm over the moon about this idea.
Don't tell anyone what those 2 books are.
No. But yes, and I want to thank you, not just for this wonderful discussion today, but for stoking my love of cinema.
Thank you, man.
And it's just an honor to spend some time with you. Thank you all for watching. A friendly reminder that Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities will be streaming on Netflix October 25th.
And I thank you, and I remind you that Midnight Club by Mr. Flanagan is now streaming.